And I'm here to talk about Yandex, a company that since the very beginning thought very big. In that sense, they have this in common with the Americans. The Americans also think very big, and when they want something, they want to conquer the whole world, like other Russians. I am Swiss, so I come from a very small country where we don't think that big, actually. And that difference in culture is something which I find very interesting. Just a little background. I was actually with Yandex since the year 2000 when they got the first investment round. The company was created in '98. And I have been, over the last 6 years, from 2005 to 2011, running the largest e-commerce shop in Russia, which is called Ozon, which also has a travel shop, which is ozon.travel, which was one of the biggest e-travel business in Russia. So I know the sphere pretty well. I've spent 13 years in Russia. And therefore, we are here to discuss a little bit and explain to you in which sense the Russian market is interesting, because I hope you're all interested in who is not interested in by the Russian market? Okay, that's good. And full of opportunities. So I will first go through the market itself, give you some new figures, then more focus on Yandex, give you some facts about tourism and Finland, and then finally what you're all interested in is how we can actually help you advertising to a very targeted audience. The Russian internet, we call it Runet, and everybody that talks Russian knows this slang, it's Runet. Runet is big, is full of potential, is growing very fast, and has a global reach. Let me go into some more details of this. This year, a few weeks ago, officially, the Russian internet population became the largest one in Europe and overtook Germany as the biggest, the largest audience for internet in Europe. In that sense, we see this country, which is in itself big, but the internet population and the internet market as one of the most interesting markets in Europe just from its sheer potential. You realize that by 2013, there should be above 90 million Russians online. You know, on a total population of 140, 90 million will be online. This is why so many companies are now looking at Runet as an area of growth, because the market is big and keeps growing very fast. There is a very low penetration, which ties up to the previous slide. Only 40%, 43% of people are online on a regular basis now in Russia. And this obviously compares to other countries where in the UK, in France, or in Germany, it's about between 69 and 83%. So as I told you, the internet population will double. So we talk about a huge market where half of them already are, very good internet users, experienced users, and the other half is not online yet. So this is where this market has a lot of potential. Many other markets in Europe and North America have been saturated, and only so-called developing market still have this growth potential. We actually don't like the wording emerging market, because we understand that usually when people call about emerging markets, they talk about markets where they are not yet very big. But for us, Russia is certainly not an emerging market, because it's already a serious market. And I think we see the opportunity in other countries, like you see in India here and China, which has even a lower penetration. When you split Russia by regions, you realize that the penetration I was referring to in the previous slide is actually very different by region. Obviously, Moscow, 14 million inhabitants, is a market on its own. And many people, when they enter Russia with a kind of communication advertising, they actually start with Moscow. It's like a different country, higher income, more experienced users. It's a country you should take separately and probably start with that. But then when you expand outside of Moscow, you have obviously St. Petersburg in the north region and some other areas of Russia where the penetration is already above 50%. And they are not all close to Moscow. Now, if you go to the south, you realize that also in the south you have different levels of penetration of this internet. And so when you follow the growth step by step, you realize that the country, the potential is equally spread throughout the country. It's not like all the users are only in one place. That is quite important. Now, the potential of the advertising market, also this is very important and important for you to realize that taking a first step now in such a growing market will be, very interesting for the long term, because you can establish a relationship now which will help you taking advantages of all this growth. The advertising market had been growing by 23% on CAGR, and it's only currently, it only takes 11% of the total ad spend. This also is very low compared to international benchmarks. I don't know the figure for Finland, but I assume it's close to something where Sweden, and Sweden is above 20%. It's not on the chart here, but it's one of the countries which is quite advanced in that sense. So in terms of the advertising market, online advertising market, we have a huge upside. Now, nevertheless, even with only 11%, internet is already the second channel in terms of advertising behind TV, which remains the number one, and has already overtaken the other radio, print media, and outdoor advertising as a mean to communicate to the Russian audience. And this is with only, as I said, 45% penetration of the internet. So I think in terms of how you spend your money to Russia, you certainly should look at the internet. There's no doubt about it. Now, how is online advertising in Russia split? You know, a few years ago, everybody was talking about banners, and today everybody is talking about paid search because it's the most effective way and mean of advertising, and you can do very good advertising with very small money. So paid search is about 66% of the total revenues, not only of Yandex, but of the total Russian ad market. The rest is display with 26%. Now, Runet, as I mentioned it in the beginning, is also global because we don't only target people living in Russia. Yandex is the reference site for all those who speak Russian, and there are about 300 million of them. Half of them live in Russia, and the rest in CIS countries, or like expatriates in other countries. There are 1.5 million Russian speakers in Germany, for example, which is a very interesting niche audience. So when you talk, or when you cooperate with us in terms of targeting to Russian speakers, they are not all necessarily living in Russia. And this is why we think this is the language which actually is the fourth global language, which is something also not many people know. Now, let me dig a little bit into Yandex. So there is, I think we always need to restate, because for us it's obvious, but it's not obvious for people living in Europe necessarily, that in search, usually like for every other thing in life, you like to have the choice. Now, in many countries in Europe, Google, who is a fantastic company, is absolutely dominating search, and search equal Google. In 4 countries in the world, there are local players who have developed local technologies and have kept investing in them, which enables them to take the largest share of the market. And it's a coincidence almost that all these players have between 60 and 75% of the total search market. We talk about Russia, we talk about China with Baidu that you all know, and maybe you know less, but South Korea has also a local search engine called Naver, launched in '99. On top of that, in North America, you also have the choice, because if there is one country where Bing is trying to at least give some challenge to Google, it's North America, where they are focusing on. In Russia, just to focus on Russia, Yandex equals search. And Yandex was started in '98, as I said, and started like a search mechanism for text, before the internet, actually. Yandex was developed according to the taking into consideration the Russian language morphology for text search before applying this on the internet. And therefore, the team has always been passionate about this challenge of searching effectively such a complex language like Russian language. So what is Yandex today in Russia? It's the market leader, 60% of share in search, you saw it already, 45 million unique visitors per month, and 18 million unique visitors per day. So this is the internet, the gateway to internet in Russia. And it's not only search, because we're also the leading online advertising platform. We have a combination, I mean, the Yandex site, you will see the first screen, but I hope you have all been on Yandex. It's not only a search engine, it's actually a portal. The main function is the search, but we have very early on launched the other services. I have a slide on this. And we have 51% of online market share in online advertising market. We are also the largest Russian internet business with a turnover of revenues of 622 million last year. And you may know it or not, but Yandex is a public company. Who knows when Yandex went public? Who has an idea? When did Yandex go public? And you can actually buy shares of Yandex on the stock exchange today. No idea? Artyom, you know, but you're not allowed to say. Who wants to try? When did Yandex went public? It was a big IPO.
2 years.
Sorry?
2 years.
2 years ago, it was last year. It was almost a year ago when Yandex went on the NASDAQ, and Yandex is now the largest European company listed on the NASDAQ with a market cap of between 7 and 9 billions, depending on the exchange rate and the share price. So this is not anymore, I'm not talking about a small Russian company, I'm talking about an international player who is listed on NASDAQ and who is keeping at the international challenge of being a super tech company with international exposure. And therefore, we are public, we are transparent, we report all the figures on a quarterly basis, and therefore also in terms of trust, this is a company you can fully trust. I talk about trust because I know that sometimes when you want to do business with Russia, trust is a very important issue. I think here it is important for you to know that Yandex is a publicly quoted company and therefore very responsible. I mentioned already that we do not only search, but have a lot of functions around them. I won't expand here. I could spend 5 minutes on each of them, but I don't think it's important. I'd rather show you the main page. Now, if you log on to Yandex from here, you may see a smaller version of this because not all the services are available. But the Russian version, which is the full version, we don't have actually enough space to put all the products in there because there's so many more products that come out constantly that actually we have to be very selective on what we show on our search page. The key service, except the search here, the mailbox, we have the second largest mailbox in Russia after mail.ru. We have Yandex Money down here, which is the largest payment system, online payment system in Russia. There is something called Yandex Market, which is comparison shopping. Any Russian, if he wants to buy something online, he would go to Yandex, type it in, for example, the latest Nokia, type it in, and he would get a list of the reviews of the phone, of the shop selling it. You can compare by price, by availability, etc., etc. A very convenient service, which does not really exist in Europe, at least. A very interesting project, which is Yandex Maps. And Yandex has actually a cartography level, which is absolutely on par with Google for the Russian and Finnish entity. We are now rolling it out, as Artyom mentioned it this morning. And this is important because on Maps, you can plug onto Maps a lot of other services. One service which Russians love is called probki. And probki means traffic jams. So any one of you who has been in Moscow or maybe St. Pete and had a problem going back on time to the airport or to the railway station knows why this is such a well-used service in Russia. It monitors actually the navigation via the mobile phones on all the axes, on all the streets of the city, and gives you a map. And on the map you see which streets are red, you better avoid them, and puts different colors and times for you to go through certain distances. I'm mentioning this because Yandex Probki, or traffic jams, is one of these things which show, or it's a good example, that how a company is obsessed by technology. And actually Yandex, the whole team of Yandex, it's 3,500 people today, 3,000 programmers, they're obsessed with technology. They are better in doing technology than actually selling this technology, I have to say. Otherwise you would all know it by now. And there are many features that actually you need to discover, and Russians go to Yandex to see what is new, which kind of new feature they have invented or they are trying in a beta version. It's all about technology. So talk about technology, focus on innovation. And this is a real story. It was launched, the search engine itself, the text search was launched in 1989, and then it was search on actually internet on 1997. And when you see the different innovations that happened here, mail, news, payment system, shopping, comparison, maps, etc., Yandex was always either at the same time than other players worldwide, or earlier. This company, and in the DNA of the company, there is this thing about using the technology to provide services for the users. Yandex is really obsessed by the users, and again, more for the users than for the advertisers. This is something we are working on now. We are also running after the technology. So I want to give you a few examples of recent examples, which I think are also connected to the world of tourism, of traveling, which are important for all of you. You know, everybody knows that now most of the R&D, most of the development of the big tech companies goes into mobile, and that is extremely important. You've seen the slide this morning that 1 million users of iPads in Russia. There was this statement that from Olga also that you need to be well connected, mobile internet, free Wi-Fi. This is very important. We see it exploding, and Yandex has already most of its services via apps for every possible platforms, and this is something which is very useful when Russians travel. They would want to have the maps and all the other applications on their mobile platform, and this also opens new advertising opportunities, which will be very big in the future. They are not big now yet, but this will be very big in the future. And if you kind of match the mapping, the localization, and some possible advertising, you turn into a very, very interesting product, which will be great for all of us who travel a lot, or for anybody who travels. So mobile is one thing. The next thing is, everybody knows kayak here. Kayak? Who does not know what kayak is? Just for me. Kayak.com. Kayak.com is probably the first meta search to compare price ticket between Expedia, e-bookers, and the other kind of travel agencies. It's called meta search. Normally it was first rolled out for airlines, then came trains and other means of transport. So meta search, if you go to kayak.com and you want to fly from A to B, Kayak would tell you which sites, which online sites give you which price. A little bit the same than I was talking before about the products with the Yandex Market. So Yandex has launched the Russian version of Kayak, if you want, with a расписание, which means timetable. You can actually, first the product was only to give you the timetable of the trains, the autobuses, and the flights, obviously. And now you can actually compare the offers from online travel agency. So this is a pure product, which is for traveling. And this is now, for everybody who wants to travel in Russia, they first would go to Yandex расписание, check actually what are the flights available and what are the price levels. This is meta search, and this is, I think, something that has really revolutionized the way people buy online, because usually you don't only go to the air company to buy online there, you want to compare the prices between different providers. Yandex is doing this in Russian, and this is only in Russian, obviously, currently.
Do you have this also for hotels?
No, not yet for hotels, no. Many people dream about such a product for hotels. It doesn't really exist in the West, though, to my knowledge. If it exists, it's not very famous, because it's much more complex due to the quality of the data that you need to compare. But it would be ideal. I would love to have such a product for hotels. So if there is a way to solve the data issue, then certainly we should look into it. Because again, search and technology is something Yandex really is keen about. And if there is a way to organize the information to make it relevant for the users, then meta search is certainly one. And the hotels would be a very interesting thing. But I'm not promising anything, because I think there is some technological issues. But for the customer, it would be logical to have it. Now, we talked a lot about maps, and I think it's extremely important today, with the internet going mobile, that the company provides services, localization, and mapping on a super high quality level. So you have the typical view from the satellite view. You have the equivalent of street view. If you go very deep down into the street, then you have the street views, which we also have, obviously. And we have even more versions of maps, including one which I show here, which is a map which is actually being upgraded by the wisdom of the crowd, as they say, by the people, by the users. So this is a map where users can draw their own remarks. And I'm just showing this to you because that is something, and the whole mapping, I think, presents a huge amount of opportunities for people who are advertising a place, a hotel, a restaurant, a resort, a city. I think the whole mapping, online mapping and the cartography is an area where we need to give you some products, some advertising products, which enable you to put some messages right on the map. Because this is used obviously mostly mobile when people are traveling, and this is something which is a very, very impactful tool. We don't have yet the advertising product ready, but I think this is something we all need to be careful about and thinking about, because this is the future, very clear. Mapping and advertising on the maps. Now, another service which we discussed yesterday with Artyom, another great service, and again, this is all about technology. Yandex has developed, and there are other people in the world who have developed it, even in Russia, there are other people who have developed this, a way where if you need a taxi right now, the system or the maps show you where is the closest taxi to you. And actually, you can, by clicking on this button, you can actually have the taxi calling you back and telling you how we will come to your place. This is a service that some people are offering. We are offering it in Russia, and I think this is again one of these applications which is at the limit between helping the taxi to sell their services, so it's e-commerce in that sense, and just great service for the user with the help of maps. So we talk about technology, but we also talk about international, and Yandex is very present in the Russia and CIS, but you may know, or maybe not, that we have actually introduced Turkey as the first market outside of the Russian-speaking language where we go, and we have launched most of the services we have today. So not only search, but most of the services and the portal in Turkish end of last year. And we currently have already 1 million daily users on the Turkish site. And this will be very interesting to see how Yandex, how the technology Yandex have developed perform on an internet which is on a completely different language. Not as complex as the Finnish language, but it's completely different language. Yes?
Could you elaborate a little bit why Turkey?
So I think it's pretty obvious the answer. We need a market which has a huge potential for growth and with which Russians have a very natural link. You know, I mean, the tourism, you know that there's a lot of traveling between Turkey and Russia. The internet scene is booming, very high potential for growth. And the market which also is basically far from being saturated. Not many big international players had paid a lot of attention to localize their products for Turkey. So these are the key reasons. Yeah. Okay, now some facts about tourism. This is just some stats. I'll flip quickly through them because the presentation will be available on the Facebook page. So just for you to know, we are the inventory we are actually talking about, which you guys can buy if you want to get traffic from us. We talk about, in terms of impressions, the whole area of travel and tourism is 48 million impressions per month now. This is a big number. And if you talk about clicks, then it's 1.3 million clicks per month. This is the inventory of everything we could think about related to tourism on Yandex today. So this is really something we want to monetize, and we were happy to monetize with you guys. If I talk more carefully about only travel agency, tours on one side, or tourism, which are very specific words, then you see the figures. 20 million impressions for travel agency and tours, 15 for tourism. These are impressions. Now, if I talk about clicks, you have 593,000 clicks for travel agency and tours, and 200 for tourism. These are clicks. That means we are sending people somewhere. We could send them to your site. This is on a monthly basis. So this shows you a little bit the potential. In terms of when when are Russians, the Russian internet audience, very active? Obviously, this is not a surprise. We heard it this morning. They tend to book at the last minute. So November would be a very active month in terms of deciding where you want to be for New Year, which you know is the biggest holiday and the biggest celebration in the Russian culture. So November is an absolute peak, followed by October and December. So if you are targeting to launch campaigns in Russia, don't miss October, November, December, because that's really when people are active. And here a chart about themes, which are mostly looked for. Tour holidays is number one with half of the search queries. Cottage rent is important, and I think that is very relevant for some people in the audience. Hotels, travel by car, ski resorts, ferry, and I go on. You'll have all these lists on the presentation anyway. So this is actually open data which we publish under Internet World Stat, which is a service from Yandex. You can actually generate these queries and see what are the number of searches. And now, if I talk about these different key searches and seasonality, it won't be a surprise that holidays have two peaks. The first before the summer, and the next one, two peaks. Per year it's always the same. It's before the summer, it's holidays, and all the year with an increase towards the end of the year is tours. You know, the Russians are still used to travel a lot by organized tours. This is a very big industry. Also, it's probably the last industry that will not go totally online, because to sell a tour online is something nobody has yet managed to in Russia. But it's still most of the requests beside holiday and tour operators. Now, in terms of destination, here it's logical. The destinations, they depend on the season. So you see Turkey being very big there for a summer resort, whereas Egypt is very big for winter time. And these are the two biggest, travel destinations for Russians for different reasons. Proximity, price, no visa needed, etc. You know that. China is growing, and Thailand is also on the 4th position. I think it's interesting. Now, Scandinavia, well, here we go. Finland is, of course, the preferred destination, the most searched destination amongst Russian users. Followed by Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland. And where do people who search for Finland, where do they come from? Logically, northwest. This is the area which is close to here, around St. Petersburg, but also pretty much so from the center, which is around Moscow. There is no surprise here. I just think it's interesting. And then here I have a 6 graphs that show the different seasonality by type of request. You can see it on the wall. I'm not going to describe it, but you see the different seasonality depending on the season, depending on tours, not tours. Fishing is very big also for Russians. It's very emotional. They love to go fishing, and I think your country is also one of these destinations where people think about for fishing. So this is typically an area where I think you should not forget this thing of fishing when you do online advertising. If you have something to offer in this area, then make sure you communicate it properly via the relevant keywords. So a few recommendations. When and how is it better to place an advertising? You need to be very careful what kind of requests you buy, what keywords you buy. And I think the whole strategy for you would be to develop a competence, which we have a team, an English-speaking team ready to assist you with that, to understand how to run campaigns and how to select the keywords that actually work. And in the tourism area, it's all about finding the ones which generate the best CPC. In terms of in terms of thematic requests, this also comes back to Olga's presentation. Don't just advertise holidays or hotels. Try to find a theme which is particular, which is peculiar, as she was saying, which is something unique you can offer. And there you will have much more impact, much more interesting results. And for budget allocations, don't start during the high season. This is not. This is why the competition is the worst, where there is the bidding is functioning. So start your advertisings. You know, if you want to advertise towards the end of the year, start in summer, start in August to develop this competence, and be able to optimize your campaign before actually the big season. Now, how to advertise in Yandex? So, because we are not only a search but a portal, we provide actually the different tools for different objectives which you may have in terms of advertising. If you want to create a big brand, then you can buy the banners. You know, we see all these famous cars, famous banks, etc., buying the Yandex front page banner, which is like if you would be on prime time on the evening on TV before after the news. It's the, you know, this is the main banner on Yandex, but we have display advertising on most of the products. And this display advertising is something we can also target more than being just general to everybody. So there is product there for you if you want to do branding or niche branding. And obviously, the most used one and the one which is mostly interesting for smaller businesses is contextual advertising. And here we call our tool Yandex Direct. Yandex Direct is exactly what Google AdWords is for Google. It's the same tool, almost the same tool with the same functionalities, search marketing. So this is about banners. I go quickly. So Yandex Direct, how does it work? This is the Yandex search result page, and I think you should just try. You go on Yandex, search your product, and see what comes out, and see who is advertising actually next to your product. And then you will see that we have priority placements, which on top of the search box results. This is pretty standard. Competitors are doing the same. This has now actually been a standard on the market. And related paid search queries, which are on the side, on the right of the natural search results. And they are processed by a system of bidding, like it would be also with AdWords. So the same system works there. We have these displays not only on Yandex, but of course on our network. And we display Yandex Direct advertising either on other functions inside Yandex or on totally different sites which monetize their site using our Yandex Direct engine. This is great for a lot of small sites who want to make some money. They display our Yandex Direct advertising. So this is one example, and here you have an example as it is looking on another Yandex product. This is Yandex Photo. We have a photo sharing site, and there you have also Yandex Direct advertising. When you run the campaigns, you can select if you only want to be on the main Yandex, want to be on the other products, or outside of the other products in the network. The interface to run campaigns on Yandex Direct is now in English. So many people have been asking, okay, we don't talk Russian, we have nobody talking Russian. This is not an issue anymore. The interface is in English, the account management is in English, and actually I will use this opportunity to introduce, can you just get Tatiana Kalinina, who is our account manager. She speaks perfect Oxford English. Much better English than I do. So and she has a team of people who are also English speakers and who is there to assist our international customers. So please.
I want to speak English.
Thank you. So the interface. This is the interface. You can go online, check it out. This is Yandex Direct. This is actually how it works. Very similar to what you're used to. The keywords, the ad text, the CPC, and at the end, your bidding. So this is a tool you or your advertising people, your marketing people, your online marketing people need to get at hand with this tool. They need to understand, they need to work with it. We are here to help. If you want to advertise to Russia and get Russians coming to your product, to your destination in Finland, you need to work with this. You need to work with Yandex Direct. It's very similar, but it's not completely similar to Google AdWords. It has some particularities. There are reasons for it. Sometimes we think it's just better. But your people, if they are serious about the Russian market, they need to work with it. 60% of the market is here. So the advantages of targeted advertising, I don't think I need to go through them because you know them. It's a targeted audience. It's non-destructive. You have complete control of your budget. You can run a campaign for $50 if you want. It's very flexible. You switch it on off. You are in control. You're in charge. And you have all the post-click analysis, which is possible. That is why internet advertising has such a great future. Because, I mean, I've been a marketer of offline media before, and I never had anything close to the quality of data which you get today when you use internet advertising. It's just incredible. And that is why internet advertising worldwide will grow tremendously in the next few years. It's just cheaper and it's more qualitative. Yeah, this I showed already. Then we have also a tool which helps you to monitor what's actually going on after the clicks from Yandex. This is called Yandex Metrica. This is similar to Google Analytics. It's a tool which will enable you to get more quality even data and monitor more what happens on your site. You need to install this system on your site, and then you will be able to work even much better with the Yandex tools. Yandex Metrica is available for free. It's as others web analytic tools is something which today, if you want to be a professional online marketer, you cannot do without these tools. It's very clear. Then we have, for experienced users, we have stuff which are embedded into Yandex Analytica, which allow you to really show what kind of movements has been done by the people while they were surfing the sites. So these are very, if you're really into usability, as we discussed this morning, we have a lot of tools which will be highly, highly interesting for you and available for free to see how people are using your site. So there's a lot to do with this analytical stuff and Yandex Metrica. And finally, when we talk about search engine optimization, we do not provide recommendation or even consultancy for search engine optimization. All I can tell you is usually when a site is optimized for Google, it does not mean that it's well optimized for Yandex. There's different search algorithms, different robots, they work differently. So you need to be very careful about this when you want to optimize for Yandex. And to help you optimizing, we have developed this Yandex Webmaster tool, which is a tool that your programmers or web designers can use to understand where are potential problems with the indexing of your site by the Yandex robots. So basically we are here very happy to be in this great resort in Finland. Very happy to see that many people are interested by the Russian market. I think there is a lot for you here to do to capture more customers from Russia. You have a fantastic product to offer and it's so close by. It's even a big advantage from that side. We are here to help in a very efficient, very targeted way. And I would like to thank you. I am available for all the questions you may have. And I hope that next time you will think about Russia, you will think about Yandex. Thank you.